Lorraine, France. September 1944, just after dawn. The battlefield is gone. In its place, a thick, milky fog that swallows anything more than a few hundred yards away. Somewhere out there are French villages with names like Arracourt, Lizay, Juvalise. Somewhere out there are German tanks. Inside one M4 Sherman, 5 men live in a world no bigger than a small room. The tank sits hull down behind a low rise, only its turret and gun peeking over. Armor creaks as the suspension settles. The air inside is already warm, smelling of oil and burned cordite. Down on the left side of the turret, jammed between stacked shells and cold steel, is the loader. They call him Walter Kowalski. He has his back to the main gun. Every manual says the loader faces sideways toward the breech, shoulder to the barrel. That's the right way. Walter has planted himself, boots wide, knees bent, back to the gun, eyes on the ready rack behind him. His commander hated it at first. Other crews laughed. "Gonna get your spine snapped, Kowalski. Turn around like a normal human." The laughing stopped after someone timed his reloads. Over the intercom, the calm voice of the commander cuts through the tension. Radio says Kraut Panzers broke through the line of departure. Panthers most likely. Keep your eyes open, boys. The commander's head turns slowly in the cupola, periscope sweeping the gray wall. The gunner rests his eye against the sight, hand on the elevation wheel, waiting for something to appear. Walter reaches back, gloved palms resting on cold steel. A 75 mm armor-piercing round. He feels the vibration of the idling engine through his boots. Out of the fog, a darker shape forms. Long, low hull, sloped turret, the edge of a black cross. "Panther, front, left to right, AP," the commander snaps. The gun booms. The whole turret slams back. Smoke stings Walter's lungs. Most loaders would still be ducking recoil. Walter pivots at the hips, hauls the 75 into his chest, whips back toward the unseen breach behind him, and slams it home in one practiced motion. "Up!" They laughed at his reverse reload in training. The Germans ahead aren't going to be laughing in the next 6 minutes. If you laid the M4 Sherman and Panther out as stat sheets, you wouldn't pick the Sherman to win. On paper, it's not a fair fight. The Sherman is the U.S. Army's workhorse, roughly 30 tons, a 75 mm gun that's excellent for high explosive into buildings and hedgerows, decent against medium armor from the side, but not designed for long-range frontal duels with heavy tanks. Its armor can stop smaller guns and shrapnel, but not big German anti-tank rounds from the front. The Panther is built to kill tanks. Its long 75 mm high-velocity gun can punch through a Sherman's front armor at ranges where the Americans are barely scratching it. Its thick, sloped frontal plate shrugs off most 75 high-thwite hits, unless the range is short or the angle perfect. It looks mean because it is mean. Everyone in 4th Armored Division knows this. They also know something the spec sheets don't show. Inside the Sherman, the crew has hidden advantages. The turret is surprisingly roomy. There's a dedicated gunner, loader, and commander. No one trying to do 2 jobs at once. The powered turret traverse is quick. The gun has a primitive stabilizer that, in trained hands, helps them get quicker follow-up shots. And in that cramped corner, there's the guy nobody writes about, the loader. Walter's world is a triangle, the gun breech in front, somewhere behind his back now, the ready rack behind, and the gunner's shoulder close to his right, rounds around his feet. Each shell weighs 15 to 20 pounds. He has to know, without thinking, where the armor piercing is, where the high explosive is, how many smoke shells are left. He works in the most dangerous space in the tank. When the gun fires, the 75mm recoils straight back. Steel, weight, momentum. If Walter misjudges the timing, reaches too early, or leans wrong, the recoiling breech can smash into his ribs or skull. In combat, a mistake doesn't just injure him. It can jam his corner, delay the next round, and cost the crew their lives. The manual way is predictable. Face the gun at an angle, reach to the rack, grab shell, swing it forward in an arc, line it up, ram it into the open breech, step clear, call, up. In training, parked on level ground, a fit loader can cycle in 4-5 seconds. In reality, the tank is jolting, everything vibrates, sweat and smoke sting your eyes. The commander is calling new targets. The gunner wants the next round yesterday. Radio chatter is full of half-heard pleas from other tanks. If the enemy is in a Panther, every extra second with an empty breech is a second their gunner has to find you and send a 75mm dart through your armor. Walter understands this in his bones. In this fog, with Panthers out there, his job isn't just to do it by the book. His job is to cheat time. He hadn't always loaded backwards. At the replacement depot in England, he learned the standard stance. Feet here, hips there, shoulder toward the gun. Reach, swing, ram. Over and over with dummy shells, then live on the range. "You're not weightlifting," the old sergeant barked. "You're doing choreography. Smooth is fast. Fast is life." On a quiet range, 5 seconds feels fast enough. Then comes Normandy. His first fights are chaos. Hedgerows, mud, artillery, short engagements where you barely see what you're shooting at. The first time a German shell hits nearby, the jolt slams the hull so hard his teeth click. In one skirmish, they catch a Panzer IV in a lane. Commander calls AP, gunner lines up. Walter loads by the book. First round, hits the track, low. The German turret starts swinging toward them. "Load! Load!" Walter tries to be smooth. Reach, swing, ram. Just as the driver jolts the tank, his shoulder clips the gunner, the shell twists. The breech slams back into battery as he fumbles. He jerks his arm away, cracks his elbow on the turret ring, then finally slams the round in. He loses maybe a second. It feels like a year. The Panzer's return shot screams past close enough to hear it. If that round had hit square, they'd be scrap. Later, arm throbbing, he stares at the ready rack. The textbook drill works, until the tank lurches or somebody shifts at the wrong time. In that cramped space, he's always fighting the turret and his own body. Stories filter through from other crews. "Panther got us. First shot bounced, second took too long, third never happened. Loader slipped, couldn't get the round in. We took one through the front." Same moral every time. Crossing into Lorraine, Walter decides, good enough on the range isn't good enough in a real fight. If the book can't keep up, he'll quietly write his own. The breakthrough comes in a muddy French field, engine off, horizon empty. They're in a lull, parked, waiting on orders. Driver and bow gunner are outside stretching. The commander half sits in the turret writing in a notebook. Walter stays inside, glaring at the ammo rack. "What you doing down there, Walt?" the gunner asks. Walter hefts a dummy 75mm. Tries the normal drill, sideways stance, reach, swing, ram. Fine when the tank is still. He can feel the memory of that jolt, the collision with the gunner. A thought hits. What if he stops fighting the turret and turns with it? He puts the shell back, turns his back to the breech, plants his boots like a boxer, one forward, one back. Now the ready rack is directly behind his shoulders. The gunner snorts. Walt? Guns this way? I know, humor me. Walter reaches back with both hands, grabs the shell base, pulls it tight to his chest, then pivots at waist and hips and drives it straight backward into where the breech will be. No big arc, no half-circle swing. Just pull and punch. He does it again and again. A rhythm forms. Grab, pivot, ram. Back to ready. The commander finally climbs down to see what's going on. What in God's name are you doing? Trying something. Time me. Standard stance. 4, sometimes 5 seconds, especially with little foot adjustments. Back to breech stance. Around 2.5, sometimes less. Shorter motion, straighter path. His body working like a spring instead of a flailing lever. The gunner frowns. Feels weird, but it's fast. Another crew wanders over, peers in, and laughs. Hey, Kowalski, you planning to moon the Germans to death? The commander lets them laugh, then shows them the timings. I don't care if he does it standing on his head, he says. If he can keep this up under fire, we live longer. They drill it, dummy rounds, then live fire when they can. Clear verbal calls, strict habits about where. Hands and heads go during recoil. By the time the division rolls into Lorraine and the fog settles over Arracourt, Walter's reverse reload isn't a joke. It's muscle memory. The fog thickens. The Sherman sits hull down on a slight rise facing a shallow valley. The map says a farm road runs through it. German tanks are feeling their way forward through the mist, trying to punch a hole in 4th Armored's line. Inside the turret, Lieutenant Harris, the commander, half crouched in the cupola, glued to the periscope. Marty, the gunner, staring through his sight at a wall of gray. Walter back to the breech, hands hovering near the rack, adrenaline in his fingertips. The radio crackles. Panthers. 2, maybe 3, can't see 'em. Taking fire from the left, just muzzle flashes. A metallic rumble grows. Harris swivels, trying to pin it down. There, he murmurs. Low ground. The engine idles, ready. Driver in gear, bow gunner on the 30. They wait. The first shape appears. A darker patch in the gray becomes a Panther, moving slowly along the valley, gun pointed off to their right, hunting someone else. Panther front, range 600, AP. Walter's hand is already on an AP round. He pulls it in and waits for recoil. On, Marty mutters. Little more. On. Fire. The gun slams back. Dust and cordite fill the turret. As soon as the recoil finishes and the breech clanks open, grab, pivot, ram. Up. The first shot sparks off the Panther's side. It starts to turn. Same target, turret ring. Harris barks. On. Fire. Another kick. Walter's already moving. Second round hits above the road wheels. This time the effect is clear. Fire jets from the far side. Smoke billows. The Panther shudders to a halt. 1, somebody yells. No time. Second tank, left. Harris calls. Panther, moving fast. Another Panther surges out of the mist, angling across the valley. Its crew has seen the first tank die. They're already traversing. AP in. Up. First shot scars the frontal slope. No kill. Short, he's turning. Load. The Panther's gun flashes. A round screams past to their right, close enough to rock the Sherman. Walter's heart jumps. His arms don't. Grab. Pivot. Ram. Up. Fire. This round hits the turret side mid-rotation. AP punches through. Flame bursts from the cupola. The turret jerks and freezes. Smoke pours out. 2. Radio. More Panzers. Same valley. Watch your right. A third German tank. A Panzer IV with side skirts. Edges out from behind the wrecks, firing blind through the fog. Quick, Behind the first wreck. Blind him, Harris orders. Walter snatches he by feel, slams it in. Up! The he round bursts in front of the Panzer, showering it with dirt and fragments. Back to AP. Next AP hits the Panzer IV's thinner side armor as it reverses, sparks, then fire. The tank jerks and goes still. 3. Somewhere off left, a Panther gun barks. A German round smashes into the berm in front of them, showering the Sherman with dirt. New tank, left front, moving uphill, Harris calls. Walter doesn't spare a glance. He can't see out anyway. He hears everything in Marty's voice. AP. Another dark silhouette climbs the slope, exposing its lower hull in the fog. On. Fire. Hit. Low hull, where the armor's weaker. Fire erupts from the engine deck. The Panther rolls a few more feet, then dies, flames licking out of the hatches. 4 German tanks burning or crippled in roughly 6 minutes. Inside the Sherman, it feels both longer and shorter. Walter's arms shake, sweat running down his back, throat burning from fumes. When Harris calls, "Ammo check," Walter's already counting AP and he. Out in the mist, surviving German tanks have heard enough. Engines rev, tracks clatter, and the sounds fade as they back out, looking for another way through. The radio comes alive. "Whoever's on that ridge, nice shooting." Walter leans his helmet against the turret wall, feeling the tank's heartbeat through his boots. Nobody says it out loud, but they all know. If those 4 Panzers had gotten a few more shots, this Sherman would probably be a blackened hulk. Instead, they're still here, because one guy in a cramped corner decided to turn around. When the fog finally thins, the victory doesn't look cinematic. It looks like blackened wrecks in low ground, thin oil fires dancing on Panther hulls, a dead tank slumped by a fence. The Sherman smells of hot metal and burned propellant. The gun barrel is warm and streaked. The crew's hands are black with soot. They don't see yet how fast the story spreads. By evening, as tanks pull back to refuel and rearm, the tale has traveled over the battalion net and through the grapevine. "Hey, you hear about the crew by WWII's? 4 Panzers in one scrap." "Yeah? Must have had air cover." "Nope, just fast shooting. Loader's some kind of machine." At the makeshift chow line, other loaders and gunners drift over. "How many did you really get?" "4 we saw," Marty says. "Maybe scared a few more." "Guy loads like a demon," Harris adds, jerking a thumb at Walter. "Didn't even have time to finish cussing between shots." "How the hell are you doing it?" someone asks. Walter shrugs, suddenly shy. "Just different stance, shorter motion, back to the gun." Silence. Then a skeptical laugh. "Back to the..." "What, like this?" a loader says, miming it, getting more laughs. Harris just points toward the valley. "You want to know if it works? Walk out there tomorrow. Count the German tanks." That night, in Shermans scattered across hedgerows and orchards, you can spot loaders in open hatches, awkwardly turning their backs to imaginary breaches and practicing with empty hands or dummy shells. Some nearly fall. Some bark their knuckles and swear they'll never try it again. A few feel what Walter felt, the shorter path, the natural pivot, the way an invisible shell seems to flow from rack to breech in one motion. They start tweaking their routines, moving rounds into better spots, rehearsing quicker calls with their gunners, shaving fractions of a second wherever they can. No new manual, no formal order. Thou shalt load backwards. This isn't doctrine. But in the close, murky brawls around Arracourt in the days that follow, observers notice. American Shermans are firing fast and accurately. often getting off multiple aimed shots in the space of one German reply. Part of that is crew training. Part of it is tactics and the Sherman's design. Part of it lives quietly in turret corners, in the small ways loaders bend the rules to stay alive. The Battle of Arracourt doesn't end with that one skirmish. For days, German Panzer brigades try to punch through thin American lines around those Lorraine villages. Panthers and Panzer IVs roll forward into fog and rain, expecting to bully inferior Shermans off the field. Again and again, they run into dug-in U.S. tanks and tank destroyers, backed by artillery and radios, fighting from ambush instead of charging across open ground. By the end, roughly 200 German tanks and assault guns are knocked out or abandoned around Arracourt and related fights. American armor losses are much lower, despite being outgunned on paper. Historians later point to better U.S. crew training, flexible tactics, and willingness to improvise as key reasons. The mindset that turned one loader around in his turret fits that pattern perfectly. As for Walter and his crew, the official record doesn't give us a neat epilogue. Their specific duel gets folded into after-action phrases: enemy tanks destroyed, attack repulsed, ammo expenditure high. Maybe they fight on into winter, trading Lorraine fog for the snow of the Bulge. Maybe they rotate home, or are absorbed into other units as tanks are lost and crews reshuffled. What we do know is that men like them, anonymous loaders with no medals or memoirs, helped turn the Sherman from a mediocre tank on paper into a winner on the battlefield. Picture that field one last time. Fog lifted, day moving on. Somewhere else in Lorraine, another fight is starting. Here, for a moment, it's just a Sherman on a ridge, crew exhausted, gun barrel still warm, 4 German tanks smoldering below. No photographer, no correspondent. The loader who spent 6 minutes moving like a piston in a steel box doesn't get a headline. He just wipes powder from his face, checks how many rounds are left, and waits for the next orders. The battle is documented. The units are real. The fog, the Panthers, the American ambushes at Arracourt, you'll find those in histories. This specific reverse reload and one crew's 6-minute brawl are a dramatized window into a real truth. Tiny human innovations inside cramped machines can tilt a fight. If you want more small, forgotten World War II stories about loaders, mechanics, radio men, and nameless crews who bent the rules to survive, like the video, subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from and which battlefield trick or little innovation you'd like to see turned into a story next.